Hello, friends. I'm here today to take you guys on a little adventure inside one of my tunes. I use Universal Audio plugins extensively in my own production, and I have been for years now. So what I'm going to do over the next few minutes is I'm going to demo for you some of my top picks out of the Universal Audio bundle, and then I'm going to show you how I use those plugins in my mixdown process.
Drum beats go like drum beats go like drum go like drum beats like drum beats go like.
I started this tune and did all the sound design and arrangement in Ableton Live. Then what I've done is I've bounced down each one of the individual tracks to audio and imported them into Logic where we'll be doing the mixdown. The first track we'll be working with here is an acoustic stand-up bass that came out of Spectrasonic's Trillion. And I'm just going to demo the tune for you guys so you can hear it in context. In our plugin chain for this track, we've got a Fatso Senior, a Pultec Pro EQ, and a DBX 160 compressor. Let's go through each one of these individually. I'll deactivate the other plugins in the chain here. So we're just going to listen to the Fatso to begin with. The Fatso is one of these plugins that I really just can't get enough of. I use it heavily on my drums and my bass, and it's a multi-talented beast. It has a compressor, it has a warmth section, which simulates analog tape saturation, and it has a low frequency saturation section. So I'm going to walk you through each one of these sections individually. First, I'll point out that the reason I'm using the Fatso Senior here versus the Junior is because of the additional compression controls we have down below. With the Senior, we have the ability to tailor in our attack and release and be able to sculpt the sound a little bit more specifically to our tastes. Up here, you'll notice that we have a variety of different compression algorithms we can choose from. You can select them with this button here, and you can choose, depending on what's lit up, between a very gentle bus compressor, a general purpose compressor, the tracking compressor, which is the one I'm using in this case, which is very similar to the 1176, and spank, which is in the realm of limiting. Next, we have the warmth module. And what this is doing is attenuating and compressing the higher frequency content in the same way that a hot signal hitting analog tape will do. Basically, by removing some of the very high frequencies, you are giving it a warmer sound. And I like this a lot on bass. The last section of the Fatso is the low frequency saturation module. You activate it by clicking this button here until tranny lights up. And what this is doing is accentuating and adding in bass harmonics. And what that will do is tap into psychoacoustic principles that by injecting some of these harmonics higher up, it's going to fool your ear into perceiving the presence and fatness of a lower frequency fundamental. And I find this is really useful when music is being played on smaller systems. It'll help that aspect of the mix to cut through a little bit better. So let's just compare the original with the process signal. Here's the bypassed signal. And here's with Fatso. Next up in our plugin chain is the Pultec Pro, one of my favorite EQs. And in this case, I'm just using it very mildly to pull down some of the sub-frequency range from 30 Hz and below. And another aspect of this plugin is because of the analog modeling that Universal Audio did, I find this plugin colors the sound in a desirable way. So in this case, I'm using it both to knock out a little bit of sub-bass and also just to color the sound and add a little bit of character to it. Oftentimes I like doing that with this one. The final plugin in our chain here is the DBX 160 compressor. And we have this one set to just fatten up our signal a little bit more. We're using a relatively mild compression ratio, about 1.5. And I'm using this one, even though we have a compressor earlier in our chain on the Fatso, I'm using this one as well because oftentimes I find two compressors in series compressing just a little bit often sound quite a bit better than a single compressor compressing a lot. So here is with the DBX 160 bypassed. And here's with it on. I find it just tightens and fattens up the sound in a desirable way.